What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. We are live here on a Wednesday morning on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube channel. Excuse me, I'm one half of your host this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. If you guys are new to the channel, if you like the content, if you want to be interactive throughout this morning show or any of our morning shows we run here, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with us. What a night in South Philadelphia last night, Scotty. Bryce Harper bangs out 3 homers, the finale being a grand slam to put the Cincinnati Reds away. And right across the street, Joel Embiid, our MVP, makes his return to the hardwood, and the Sixers come up with a humongous W late in the fourth quarter against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I know it's just the regular season, man. I know it's only game 5 of 162 for the Phillies. I know Embiid still got to ramp up his conditioning, but there are nights you look back on as a sports fan and you remember like where you were sitting, who you were watching with. Last night was one of those nights for me. And it's so funny how things change from a night to night basis, because you and I were supposed to go live yesterday morning, and I said, and it was right after the Phillies blew an extra inning game to the Cincinnati Reds. They're 1-3 to start the year. The Flyers right across the street lose another game in overtime to the Islanders. We don't know what's going on with Joel Embiid. He's still listed as out. And it was an awful night. And I said, man, let's go Wednesday. The Phillies probably aren't playing tomorrow. We'll have time to sit back and figure out what we want to do. And I'm so thankful that we waited, because now today's show gets to be a lot of excitement and a lot of joy to talk about our Philadelphia teams, man. But what's been going on with you?
Oh, not much, man. Just enjoyed the holiday. I had to go through my L's this weekend as well, with Duke losing to NC State in the Elite Eight. So yeah, it was piling up on me. And the sad thing is, man, the Sixers got a W on Sunday as well, and I didn't watch a lick of that. I was watching college basketball all day. So yeah, I got no enjoyment out of that day. So yeah, yesterday was pretty refreshing overall, just to see like the surprise of Embiid returning. Of course, I was watching the Sixers game. I didn't even get to see Bryce in the fightings over there, but I'm glad he got off the shrine, right? Like he's able to get out there and get his back going in the best way possible, to be clear.
No big deal. 3 homers, 6 RBIs.
Yeah.
No big deal.
just a legendary night. Nothing crazy. But yeah, it was one of those nights in Philadelphia last night. I'm excited to break it all down with you today. And definitely in a lot better spirits than I would say I was even yesterday, right? Because man, just to be transparent, man, like not only was it like Duke losing on Sunday, but it was the sports betting as well. Like I was just on a mean losing streak.
A little bit of a lull, yeah.
Bro, I texted you about that Braves game the other day. Man, 9-0 in the last inning.
Yeah,
and they call the game.
Yeah,
and I don't get my bread, man.
There's something I don't understand about that. DraftKings FanDuel has to answer for that, because
that's wild.
I could understand if it was like before the 5th inning, before it was considered an actual game, if it got called in the rain. And the Braves were up 3-0 or something like that, and they were going to continue it another day, and they either void it or your bet waits it out or whatever. But for it to be in the 8th inning, it's called an official game. Like it's in the record books. The Braves won the game. So why is that not a win? And again, I know, maybe it's not something manual that they go in and do, and it's just something that the technology, that the algorithm does. But it's not like this game was 2-0 in the 8th, and the White Sox had 2 more innings.
This is an outlier.
It was, what was it, 9-0?
It was 9-0, man. At the top of the night.
The game's over, man. So
yeah, that one blew me.
It makes no sense.
Couldn't get off the losing streak, but we'll get off today though.
They have some explaining to do for that one. Hassan Reddick also traded to the Jets for a 3rd round pick, man. No, we have not discussed that yet. That was, I believe, on opening day of the Phillies, and then obviously the weekend hit and a little bit of a long weekend here for us. But we'll talk about that at the end of today's show if we have enough time, which I assume we will, and give our thoughts and opinions on that. Yeah, we should hit up the interpreter and see what he's doing nowadays. Hey, he's unemployed. He might want to come work at DSM and do some some betting content for us.
Yeah,
you never know.
Hey, help us out, man.
You never
Help us
know,
out.
man.
We
But
need the gains.
let's start with one MVP in South Philadelphia last night, and that is Joel Embiid returning to the floor for the 76ers. They come away with a 109-105 win against the Thunder last night. And man, I saw your tweets throughout the game, and you and I were texting a little bit, and it was almost like you were right. It was almost like if they didn't come away with that win last night, you were okay with it. Just to see Joel come back, and we know the conditioning's not there yet. We know he's got to work through some things to get back into game shape, but to ultimately see his rhythm out on the floor, to see his defensive presence out on the floor, to see the two-man game with him and Kelly, him and Kyle Lowry, it was really, really fun and great to see moving forward for this team. So the win almost didn't matter when you were in like the second and third quarter of this game. But then you got to the 6-minute mark, and then you got to the 5-minute mark, and so on and so forth. And here they come. Kelly hits a three. Kelly gets to the lane. Joel hits a mid-range pick and pop. And it's like they have a shot this thing. And for them to come away with such a momentum-grasping victory last night, like literally like the Wells Fargo Center, the roof was almost coming off. You're talking about the top seed, one of the top seeds out there in the Western Conference. To come away with that style of win last night in his debut, I think is huge for this team. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. Here was my first takeaway from Joel Embiid's return outside of Joel Embiid himself. Tell me the others did not play with so much more confidence and swagger out on the basketball court.
Yeah.
Tell me I didn't see it. I know he didn't. I know he didn't shoot well. He started the game off well, finished it poorly. Tobias Harris was actually confident on a basketball floor, at least for some part of the game. Yeah. Kelly Oubre Jr., confident. Kyle Lowry, Buddy Hield. They all look like they had this like resurgence of energy now that the best player in the world is back on their team and playing aside next to them. That was my first takeaway. Like, okay, now we're starting to see these new pieces really fit and what they can look like surrounding Joel.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That was the first and only takeaway I feel from last night. Of course, getting the W, and even looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they don't have SGA, they don't have Jalen Williams, like their two top guard scorers, right? So it is a big W at home to come away with that in Embiid's return, just for confidence. No Maxey last night, so the other guys did have to step up, even with Embiid coming back. Kelly Oubre looked great, 4 for 7 from the 3-point line. The shooting all around was much better, and I think it's just simply because they're getting more open looks. The floor spacing is a lot better anytime Embiid's going to be on the floor and he's getting double teamed.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. Chat, you guys in the chat, let us know. On my side, your Wi-Fi and your sound is all off. I don't know if it's my side being just horrible with connection or if it's coming from you, but you're all like frozen and staticky on your end for me. So Martian, Hunter, let me know if it's me or if it's Scotty's side that you guys hear as well, or if you don't hear anything. Scotty's gone now. Sounds good on your end. That's okay. Well, then, how do I sound over here? Am I all messed up? Because nothing's easy. Nothing's easy over here. But I think before we get him back in here, I think to Scotty's point, just seeing Kelly Oubre Jr., what did he drop last night? 17 in the fourth quarter alone. Just to see the overall confidence. All right. Well, we're good over here. Let's get him back in. All right. Well, apparently you're good and I'm good to Hunter. So I don't know. It just has to be my side with what I hear from you, but we'll power through. Don't worry.
Yeah. Interesting. Can you hear me now though? Like, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. It is very like off and on, like staticky, and like like your face is freezing a lot on my end.
Interesting. Yeah. No. Because yeah, I'm watching it back, and it looks like both of us are okay.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking down at my YouTube.
Weird.
No,
you're I don't know.
On my end.
Anyways, going into that last night's game, just to kind of get back to the point. going into that game, the reason I said like the win didn't matter that much to me, why it wasn't like the end all be all of last night. Just getting Embiid back right now is the biggest win of them all, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like getting him back a week or two before the postseason's around, before the play-in tournament starts, and allowing him to get his conditioning up, because last night was hard on him. Like we could see that he was breathing very heavy out there. And he's going to go through that at the beginning, man. He's going to have to go through a little bit of lumps there with conditioning. But the good thing is that within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we should see him starting to get back into pristine shape. And I think that's the biggest win of them all, getting him back with a little bit of time before the postseason. That's what we said when he went down was what we would want out of this. The best thing we could ask for when you look at a serious injury like that is getting him back with some time before the postseason so he can get warmed up. And yeah, I think it was a big W. You look at the rest of the schedule now, right? We looked at it maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and it was looking so tumultuous and so tough. And now you look at the rest of the games on the schedule, man. They visit the Heat on Thursday. That's going to be a huge game. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see if Embiid plays in that game. I think he will, given it's not a back-to-back, but it'll be interesting to see how he kind of rebounds off his first game back. But that's a huge game. If you can get the 7th seed, I think that is like the biggest goal in the world. Now, the regular season isn't the end all be all. You can just win the play-in tournament and get the 7th seed as well. So there's multiple avenues in order to get where you need to get to. I just think the biggest thing is not playing Boston in the first round. I think that is the biggest hump to get past for this Sixers team at this point. But that's a good point to be at, considering what the hump was before this hump, right? What the first hump was Joel Embiid coming back, and we got to see him come back last night. And you could already see, like you said, the confidence, but just on defense especially, man. Like, I know the Thunder were hitting some threes. There were some moments where Joel probably could have got some rebounds if he's in better shape. Maybe could get out on some shooters if he's in better shape. But just his presence, man, on the floor, on both sides of the ball, honestly. Get into the free throw line 12 times. I mean, I never realized how much this team missed free throws just by losing Embiid, right? Like, we take it for granted that he gets to the free throw line 9-10 times a night. We don't have another guy that gets a whistle. We don't have another guy that gets to the line like that either, man. So it was beyond refreshing is what I'm getting at here, man.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the conditioning. I think we saw it in the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game. I mean, he's hunched over, hands on his knees, looking over to the bench, basically waving for a little breather right there for a couple minutes. So it's going to take him some time. But that's what was so important and so key to getting him back now. Getting him back right now today with 7 games left in the regular season before that potential first-round matchup or a play-in tournament, is here. Because if he doesn't come back for another week and a half, last night is a play-in game.
Yeah.
The lack of conditioning is a play-in game. Possibly win or go home, season on the line. So obviously that's one key component with him coming back. But I will say to you, man, you brought up an interesting point, and it kind of jogged my mind of where I was at last night and throughout the afternoon when I was just surfing Twitter and seeing everyone's reactions to the draft, the line movement for the Sixers, and is he going to play and everything like that. Tell me what you think. And I love, love, love our fellow Sixers fans. But, I'm just confused by the my point is the same people I have been seeing judge and criticize every single 76ers game over the last 2 months, and how this team stinks, and how they don't know if it's even worth it for Joel to come back. And even if they are, they're going to play Boston in the first round. Those same people are going nuts about his return yesterday, and look out Eastern Conference, and the Sixers are a contender in the East. And my point with that is we all knew he was coming back. That was why, we would judge and criticize the Grizzlies loss and the Nets loss and shit like that when it comes to standings. But people legitimately were like, I can't believe he's back. Guys, this was the timeline. No, not even you, Mark. I'm talking about just Twitter yesterday. And you said you don't have Twitter. This was always the timeline. From the time it came out that he was selecting to get the operation, the surgery done, we knew it was late March, early April, regular season. This is what they told us. And everyone acted like the world was ending when they were losing games without everybody and without Joel. Now he's back and they're contenders in the East, and it's like, no shit.
Yeah.
No shit. So, like, I'm not trying to, like, pick any arguments with people I respect and our fellow Philly fans. But, like, I mean, my goodness, like, I almost felt like saying, man, like, pull up your tweets from 2 weeks ago, because pretty sure you said it's not even worth it for Joel to be Embiid to come back because this team stinks so bad. And now here you are. They're contenders in the East. Yeah, no duh, because the best player in the world is back on the basketball floor, man.
Yeah, no, I do feel you. It is interesting. I think it was the abruptness of the return. I feel right, like
I guess
he starts out the day out. Right, you start the week. Woj says he's going to return this week sometime, and then all of a sudden, 5 p.m. yesterday, 5:30, whatever time it was, 6 o'clock.
He got upgraded to questionable.
He gets upgraded to questionable, and then ultimately ends up playing. And but I know, like, if you follow the tea leaves over the last week or two or so, especially, you've seen him with the team. He traveled with the team. He's at the games. He's very lively, involved. We've been seeing the practice clips of him, scrimmaging with the team. So the tea leaves were pointing to him returning. The hype sort of built up on Monday and Tuesday, and then ultimately,
and I get the excitement. Like, I'm not arguing against the excitement for the return and how big it is. Yeah. I'm just talking about the same accounts that were set. There's no point in him coming back. This team stinks. Blah blah blah. They're not, and it's like, well, they were missing Joel this whole time. Like, that, right? It doesn't matter. This team can't win games. Okay, now he's back, and oh my God, they're a contender in the Eastern Conference. Like, brother, like this was the story the whole time. He was supposed to come back around this time period. So, like, I'm just confused by the fellow fan last night, man. But you mentioned the defensive end. That's what I wanted to get back to with You mentioned the defensive end, and I don't know what play I enjoyed seeing more. Him stripping Zach Giddey and taking it coast to coast and drawing the foul. Josh Giddey, excuse me. Josh Giddey.
He's taking a beating.
Yeah. And drawing the foul, which, by the way, no idea what the officiating crew was doing last night, from the first play of the game for Joel Embiid to taking so long to look at the final foul for Joel Embiid. But that's neither here nor there. He does that. Or was it Kyle Lowry in the paint taking a charge? And even if he doesn't get there, Joel Embiid. Yeah, chill. And Joel Embiid denies at the rim for protection, and it goes the other way. Sixers ball late in the game. There was just such a difference defensively from this team. And I know the Oklahoma City Thunder were missing their two biggest scorers, and SGA is a star, right? You held this team to a $105, man. So that's an accomplishment, and it tells you that this team is different, not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end with Joel back. And that's kind of what I can't wait to continue to see in terms of growth with this team. And not to mention, for everybody that didn't get this memo, because Reggie Miller and the company just didn't talk about it last night, the Sixers also played without Tyrese Maxey. The Sixers are also still missing DeAnthony Melton. So I know the Thunder were missing guys, because that was said 1,900 times on the broadcast. But the Sixers are also.
It showed them the entire game too, man. Like Jalen Williams and SGA, but they didn't show. Maxey was on the bench over there. He was. He's in a black hoodie, I believe. He was sitting at the end of the bench.
D-Melt was there too. For those
he's of you that didn't know,
the Sixers are also missing an all-star. If you guys were curious,
he's an all-star player, first time all-star this year. But yeah, that is funny. I didn't even notice that. And watching the game, I was just so sick of seeing like SGA smiling and cheering on the sidelines, but. You are not lying, man. They did not even like acknowledge that Maxey was not playing last night in Embiid's return. And I get it. They were making a huge deal about Embiid's return, and I appreciate that, right? Like, it worked out conveniently. It's on like TNT or whatever last night, right, for the return. And it's curious. I'm curious. Is that like Did he get pushed out there for the return on national television? Like I'm not gonna do all that here today. But I did want to ask you, what did you think of Nurse's starting lineup?
Yeah, so that is something I texted you last night.
And this isn't a dig at Campaign, because Campaign has been good. He's been good.
Yeah, I did for a stretch of the game last night see a little bit too much of Campaign with the ball in his hands. And jacking up shots as the Thunder were going on like an 8-0 run.
Confidence. You can't let him do too much. He's similar to Kelly Oubre, right? Like when Oubre's on, like, okay, go ahead. But when he's off, it's like, okay, slow down. We need to stop taking shots.
Yeah. Maxey being out obviously changes a lot, because if not, is he still going to start Maxey and Lowry as the two guards with Joel? Right. So maybe that's the difference.
All backcourt.
But with no Maxey, and even when Maxey's back, from the time they acquired him at the deadline, it's the vision that you and I kind of saw. I don't know where Buddy Hield is. Why in a game where Tyrese Maxey's out, Kyle Lowry inserts at the 1. Why is Buddy Hield not the 2 guard? And I'll argue it further. When Tyrese Maxey's on the floor, Buddy Hield should be my starting 2 guard. I think it is legitimately the perfect fit on a basketball court with Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Like, what it's making me think is, like, is Buddy Hield, like, that bad? Like, is he just that bad that Campaign starts over him?
I don't know.
Did Daryl Morey make a mistake at the deadline? Is that what we're saying as well? Like, trading for Buddy Hield, and then now he can't even start over Campaign? Like that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's not anything to, like, fault Campaign. It's just that I thought Buddy Hield was going to be have a more significant role in. So, like, if he can't even get the start and have a more significant role with Tyrese Maxey out, then what does his role look like when Tyrese Maxey is inserted back into the starting lineup? Campaign's moved to the bench. Now, Campaign, is he coming off the bench before Buddy Hield? He has been, right?
Yeah. The only other thing I would suggest or look at is that Nick, and even, with Paul Reed lately, he's been starting Mo Bamba and keeping Paul Reed in that bench rotation.
Yeah.
The only thing I could argue is that he wants to leave Buddy in that bench rotation mix. And then when Maxey plays, and hell, if Anthony Melton returns soon, Payne kind of heads further down the bench and Buddy stays in that rotation that he's been accustomed to the last couple of weeks here. But I mean, maybe Nick Nurse wants more juice off the bench.
He only get 2 3-point attempts last night? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like with Embiid, like you can't get more than 2 looks.
Yeah. But I would argue this, Martian Lynch. Like I obviously I would agree that Buddy Hield is a better scorer and clearly the better shooter when it comes to Campaign and Buddy Hield. But if you want more juice, shouldn't you go with the guy that handles the rock and isn't afraid to get downhill? Like Campaign obviously will put up shots. He put up double-digit shots last night.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want that guy coming off the bench? Because Buddy has shown, he only took 6 shots last night. He's shown to be a little more shy. So I would want the shooter that's a little bit more shy, but, can create, has that gravity with Joel on the floor that can be open and catch and shoot and knock down threes. And then you get the juice in the point guard that's not afraid to put the ball down. Or put the ball up, I should say, in Campaign. So
I do agree. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense, man. It's interesting. So, I mean, once Maxey comes back, I guess, like, it feels like he's gonna go with Lowry, right? Like with Lowry over Hield, and I understand, like, Lowry is a smart player. He's a key piece to what we're gonna be trying to do down the stretch here with this Sixers roster, but I don't know. Like, I look at like a Lowry. Lowry's what? He's 6 feet tall, and that's gracious, right? Tyrese Maxey's what? 6'1", 6'2", 6'2". That's gracious as well, right? They always hype up their height a little bit, right? So he's probably about 6'1". Nonetheless, that's a very small backcourt. So I don't know. Like, let's think about the other Eastern Conference like matchups, right? Like.
Well,
you go against
Drew and Derek White are not the matchup you want undersized guards.
Yeah, that's the biggest matchup that we're looking at. Then you go to Milwaukee, it's like Dame, and who starts this beside Dame? Like a Pat Connaughton or something like that. I don't even know who starts.
Wesley Matthews doesn't start for them, does he?
No, not
Wesley Matthews. Hold on.
Didn't they play last night? They lost to the Wizards last night. I saw that in the
someone
comments.
Hold on. Who is it?
So they got Middleton. Looks like I thought
Malik Beasley is who I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah, Malik Beasley is the guy. Yeah, he is the guy that starts next to Dame. You're right. And he's 6'4", so I mean he has a little bit of size to him. He can shoot the ball. I don't know. It's just not ideal having two guards right in your starting lineup under like 6'3", 6'4", right? And
I agree. And I think there's also
we've seen this movie before with undersized guards.
Yeah. And I think there's something to Kyle Lowry finishing games. I think there's something to having that veteran presence, that guy that can knock down an open three in clutch time, that guy that can, take a charge late in the game to get the ball, to get a possession back for his team. I think there's something to having Kyle Lowry out there to finish a game next to Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. But I would start Buddy Hield. I'm going to die on this train, and I know Nick Nurse is never going to do it for the remainder of the season.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do. My starting five would be Tyrese Maxey, Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre Jr., Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. To be honest, I might even start Nico Batum. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Nick can do a lot of different things with this rotation.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I would be like, if you want that scoring punch once again off the bench, I'm more open to Oubre going to the bench, Nico Batum going to the 3, and now you have that high IQ right starting lineup with Nico Batum and Embiid. And the thing about Batum and Buddy Hield, they're complete. Like, I don't want to like say this too harshly, but they're completely worthless without Joel Embiid on the court.
No, I agree.
They're going to be maximized with Embiid,
right?
Yeah.
Think about the 3-point shooting. You have those two that are kind of Batum in the corner, Hield on the wing, whatever it is. They're
whereas Oubre and Payne can create for themselves, like you said.
Yeah. So that's exactly what my lineup would be. Yeah. We know he's going to start Lowry and Kelly Oubre and go completely away from what we do. But listen, I'm not going to be mad at what he does. I just think that's what I would do. So,
and Nurse might be right. Like, let's be clear. Nurse might be right. Maybe for his philosophy, the way he wants this team to play, maybe that's the way he wants to go. So, like, I'm not. I know we've talked about Nurse a lot here. Yeah. And it hasn't really been fair for Nurse this season without Embiid, right? Like we've talked about that as well.
That's what I was going to say.
We've got to trust Nurse to an extent, and I do understand that as well.
I think we judged and criticized Nick Nurse over the course of the last 2 months, and I think rightfully so in a decent amount of moments.
Yeah.
But to be fair, and like you said, he's won a lot of ball games when the MVP is on the floor. So whatever he decides to do surrounding Joel Embiid, I have to trust, because this Sixers team was 30-18, 32-20 before he went down, like a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference for most of the season. Like, so with Joel on the floor obviously makes any head coach's life easier, but he was putting the correct, he was pushing the right buttons around Joel. So now that he's back, I'll let Nick get this leadway. But
figure it out.
Last 6 games of the regular season, if there are some issues with the rotation, if there are some issues with who's playing with Embiid and who's not, then I will critique and I will criticize and say, this is what I would do. Yeah. Are we ever going to get Cove back? No, there's no chance, man. I have no idea what's wrong.
Not in time for him to be effective. I mean, in my opinion, right? Like, we talk about
Robert Covington's. If Joel Embiid missed over 2 months, Robert Covington has missed 3.5 months.
Who are you taking out of the lineup?
That's the thing. There's nobody. There's nobody.
You just take those minimal KJ Martin minutes
to put a ribbon on our Sixers conversation here. Is now that he's back, man, and we're talking about these different lineups and who looks good with them. This is a deep Sixers team, man, and this is the deepest, best, most talented, probably best shooting supporting cast Joel Embiid has had. So
smartest.
Yeah, the most veteran, everything. The thing I'm looking for is him to get that conditioning up over 6 games, and I think he will, man. So I'm ready to rock and roll, dude. Like, there are so many buttons you can press, and honestly, there was even a moment last night where they were making a comeback, and I'm looking at this lineup, and it was like Paul Reed, Buddy Hield, Cam Payne, Kelly, and one more person, right? Maybe Kyle Lowry, I forget. And you would look at that in the past and you go, well, no Maxi's on the floor because he's hurt. No Embiid on the floor. No Tobias. Like, what are you doing? But those are 5 players I'm comfortable with in a short sprint in a game. So they're deep.
That's
they're talented. Maxi. They can shoot the rock. They have high basketball IQ. Kyle Lowry's got a ring under this head coach who has a ring. There's a lot to look forward to as the Sixers head down this home stretch. The biggest question, like you said, is can you avoid ending up as the number 8 seed after the play-in tournament is said and done and lining up with the Boston Celtics? Look, lining up with the Milwaukee Bucks is no prize, right? Getting Giannis and Dame in the first round isn't something we're excited for, but I'll take that matchup. I'm okay with that matchup. The Celtics is like, ooh.
First round, let's get some wear and tear on the Celtics.
Hold on.
Let them play the Miami Heat first round. Let the Heat take care of the Celtics for us. You know what I'm saying? Like
very, very quickly. Hell no. Absolutely not.
I could see it in certain matchups where they need like energy or rebound. I don't know, but with Embiid back, I don't see it. Actually,
every time he touches the
ball, he's going to get more minutes.
A couple plays last night. He got to the rim, finished reverse. He got down low, caught a pass, bounced past the Paul Reed, finishes with the slam. He made a couple plays last night. Every time this kid gets the ball, it looks like he's like out of breath and going to travel. Like he looks so like, oh my God, I caught the ball. Like I can't. I'll have a heart attack if Martin plays double-digit minutes.
Nah, not double digit. And the only way that he would get a look in the playoffs for me is like if Oubre's having one of those games, right? Or like like Nico Batum's having one of those games. Like maybe you give him, 5 minutes just to get somebody in there to get rebounds, give energy. But nah. Just to be clear about Embiid with the Sixers, 27-8 with Embiid. Okay, just wanted to be clear about the Sixers record. With Embiid this season.
Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to hop out and come back in because this is getting. I'm like piecing your sentences together over here. Like, all right, that's where you finished. Hold on, let me see if this fixes.
Yeah, I'll hold it down here. Always some technical difficulties. What can we do? Shouldn't be this way with as much as we pay for internet these days, but. I don't know, man. I'm excited for the Sixers now. Things look a lot better. Things look a lot better with Bryce Harper cranking out three home runs last night as well, man. Turning the Phillies season around. Got Dylan popping back in here. See if this fixes it.
What's up, brother?
Welcome back. Is it any better?
If it doesn't fix it, we're good. You're good. You're good right now. We'll see if it continues.
Right.
It's on my end,
see how it
it makes no sense. Somehow today, Scotty, after all the technology, after all the Wi-Fi issues and everything, somehow today my Wi-Fi has somehow caused your end for me to be all screwed up today. It's not mine.
Out of everything.
Here, apparently I'm good, but somehow listening to you, it's like a robot like scratching in and out. I'm like, oh God, but. We'll push through for the rest of this one, man. We'll be good. I'll figure out what you're saying at the end. I'll catch the last little Joel Embiid conditioning. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad.
Let's talk some fightings, man.
Yeah, let's get into the Phillies, man. And it's funny again how one game, one exciting night in your city, how one little shift of momentum can change your mindset. Because if we came on 24 hours ago talking about the Phillies, I would have had a very, very different tone. And I'm not going to excuse the slow start. And we're going to talk the Atlanta series. We're going to talk Rob Thompson. We're going to talk about the bats and we're going to talk about everything. But 2 and 3, Bryce Harper hits 3 home runs, hits a grand slam. They put up 9 runs. They win. It's a lot different of a feeling than being 1 and 3 and looking the way they had.
You say Bryce Harper 3 home runs. Like
it's crazy.
It's insane. They had a grand slam. Yeah. I mean, like
it's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
And if you missed it, bro, he was 3 for 4, 3 home runs.
Yeah.
And his third at bat, he hit a missile to left center and the dude dove face first and caught it like in the cone in the tip of his glove and held on. It would have, if it gets to the wall, it's probably a triple or inside the park home run.
Yeah.
So Bryce Harper was absolutely locked in last night. Phillies come away with a 9-4 win. They're 2-3 on the season.
Needed that.
Have another game, 4:05 scheduled today if the weather permits against the Reds. If they win this, they win the series. They win 3 of their last 4. They're 500 on the season, and we can get off to our now quick start that we were looking for after 2 sluggish ones against the Atlanta Braves to open up the year, man. Let's start positives, okay? I'll give a few to you, and then you throw some positives to me throughout the course of this short season so far. Obviously, we could talk all day about what Bryce did last night, but Bryce was 0 for 11 before last night. Bryce struck out with a chance to tie the game in extra innings against a pitcher who was putting him right down the pipe for him the night before. Bryce Harper came into this game struggling to perform and help this Phillies team out and help them score runs, and he just did the exact opposite of what he had been doing last night, and he goes off. Alec Boehm continues to hit with runners in scoring position. It's just in this dude's DNA. I don't know what it is, night in and night out. He finds ways to come up. 2 outs, no outs. It doesn't matter. Alec Boehm drives runners in when they need to be driven in. Kyle Schwarber, Scotty, it's just poking singles everywhere to start the year. Like, it feels like broken bat singles, bloop singles, ripping singles up the middle on a line. It doesn't matter. The dude has 1 home run on the year, and he's ripping singles, something we haven't seen much of throughout his tenure here in Philly. He looks slimmer, by the way. He's already got 2 stolen bases on the year. Looks like he's moving a little bit better out there. And then the last 2 nights, and I'll get to the pitching now. Zach Wheeler was great on opening day.
Yeah.
Christopher Sanchez. Ranger Suarez was great on Easter. Christopher Sanchez was great last night or 2 nights ago. Spencer Turnbull, great last night.
Nola.
I think we're missing someone.
Oh.
And that's where you can start to get into the negatives.
Do we have to talk about Nola so soon?
I don't even know, like, if I want to at this point. I don't even know what to say about him. We can come back to that. Yeah, and he's the elephant in the room. He's
yeah, you're not lying. Yeah. It was painful to watch, man. It was honestly painful. I get it's the Braves. Like, it's always the Braves, right? Like,
but
it's unacceptable, right?
I can't say that because Zach Wheeler gave you 6 shutout innings. Ranger Suarez let up a 2-run home run in the first and kept them in the game the rest of his outing.
Yeah, there's no
Why
excuses,
is he
man.
always the one in the middle of the pack that does what he does, man? Like, listen, this wasn't just a bad start to open the season. He got fucking mauled out there.
Yeah.
7 runs in like 2 or 3 innings. He gave up 2 runs in the first inning. The Phillies come back the bottom of the first. Get Max Fried out of there. Take the lead 3-2 off the bat of Bryson Stott. And then he gives the lead right back in the top of the second. I'm already tired of it.
He's got, and look, this comment right here, he's got the contract now. So the heat, I feel like he does get a lot of heat anyways, but the heat is going to crank up and even further on him now. The lights are going to be on him. The attention is going to be on Nola, and he's sticking out like a sore thumb, quite honestly. When you look at the pitching staff specifically to start the season, Nola is the guy that sticks out like a sore thumb right now.
I mean, dude, and again, like you said, it's Braves lineup, Reds lineup, but Spencer Turnbull threw a gem last night.
Yeah, talk to me about this guy, because I'm not hip. I'm not hip to Spencer Turnbull.
Neither am I. To be completely honest with you, like Spencer Turnbull, like this isn't a young kid that has come up through our farm system. This isn't a prospect we traded for 2 short years ago, and now he's finding his way up. This is a guy that's been around the block. I believe played with Detroit last year. Comes in, had a 7+, 6+ ERA last year. The Phillies are just looking for someone at the bottom of this rotation that can chew up innings, can keep you in ball games, and I would imagine be anywhere in the ballpark of around a 4 or 5 ERA. Just be someone that doesn't crush the bullpen every 5 nights and allows your team a chance to win. And what Spencer Turnbull and Christopher Sanchez 2 nights ago did as that 4-5 combo was not only give you quality outs, quality innings, was not only keeping you in a ball game, they should have won you a ball game. So Spencer Turnbull, in turn, he did technically help the Phillies win a ball game last night.
He got the win. He got the win last night. And then Ricardo
Sanchez, I don't care if he gives up two runs to end his outing in the 6th. The Phillies lineup is what lost them that game the other night in extra innings. So you have 2 guys at the back end of your rotation, 1 start each, both against the Cincinnati Reds at home. I'm not making any declarations as to what they're going to provide the rest of the regular season for you, but it was a great start for those 2. It was a great start for Ranger, and it was a great start for Wheeler to start the year. So that's something that I'm very, very positive about with the Phillies so far.
And then you get 4 innings out of Ricardo Pinto. I mean, he gave up 3 runs. I get that, 5 hits, but I mean, just giving you some innings, man, chewing up some innings for you. And this guy,
how about his story? Did you see that too?
What?
The Phillies sent a car for him.
Car. He was stuck in traffic in like New York, right?
He got there in the 4th inning.
This dude's 30 years old too, bro. I was like looking up, like just trying to get some history on him. Apparently, he was with the Phillies back in 2017 as well. Played 25 games. So yeah, it's interesting. It was an interesting night with the pitching staff last night, but they showed out, man, and that's a huge. If that can be consistent, that's huge, right? Christopher Sanchez, the guys at the back end of that pitching staff. So yeah, I think. You talk about positives to start the season. I think that would have to be one of them. Everybody outside of Aaron Nola, dude. I mean, that has to be a positive, even with Nola being the negative.
Wheeler's up today. Knock on wood that they can get this game, and he's up today. And then Nola's next in line. So, and I believe we head to Washington, where he plays a lowly Washington Nationals team and a lineup that he better deal against. So we'll see what he looks like next. Everybody else in the rotation has been good. The lineup, like we said, Bryce came in hitless last night, has a career night, literally one of the greatest nights at the Dish I've ever seen in my baseball watching career, okay? Yeah. Schwarber, good. Trey's been steady, whatever. Marsh, great. So there's been a lot of positives. Let me get to the one question mark I have, it's a pain for me to say this right now. Rob Thompson's been a question mark for me through the first 5 games. And I love Rob Thompson, the guy. And I know the players in that clubhouse love him. And we've seen what he can do and make runs with this team and get the most out of this team down the stretch of seasons. Rob Thompson, for my money, has been a disaster to start the regular season. And here's why. There's too much inconsistency with his thought process for me, okay? And all across the board. We can go lineup. Let's go lineup, okay? Newsflash, Rob. Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott are everyday fucking players. I know that I've seen, I know that Stott has kind of answered the question a little bit more, and he plays a lot more against lefties than Marsh does. Brandon Marsh is an everyday baseball player. Every day he needs to be out there, except for like everybody else that gets days off, okay? He doesn't play them against the lefty one day, then plays them against the lefty the next day. He doesn't play them against the lefty on Easter, but then pinch hits Brandon Marsh against the left-hander late in the game against the Braves. Inconsistency with the lineup. I'm not loving what I'm seeing down there. And then for some reason, and again, I know you got to give the kid at bats. You got it. You can't just give up on him already. But Brandon Marsh can't hit against lefties. Bryson Stott's getting a day off against a lefty. JT and Bryce are already getting a day off. But Johan Rojas has played 4 or 5 games, and he hasn't hit the ball out of the infield yet. So this young kid gets a pass, but Brandon Marsh gets put on the bench every other day. I'm getting a little tired of that early to start the year. He needs to figure out the lineup, okay? The rotation. When to pull guys, when not to. Zach Wheeler, opening day. Under 90 pitches. Shutout through 6. Yanks them. Bullpen gives up the game. Ranger Suarez dealing 3 runs. Doesn't let him pitch into the 6th. Christopher Sanchez pitches into the 6th until it's too late, gives up 2 runs, then you go to the bullpen. How does Christopher Sanchez have a longer leash than Ranger goddamn Suarez? And you can't tell me, it's start 1. Look what he did with Ranger in the postseason last year and how quickly he pulled him. And then you get to the bullpen. And I'm fine with him not wanting to throw guys 3 days in a row, specifically early on in the season. Everybody and their mother knew you could not throw Connor Brogdon out there the other night. Everybody in the Delaware Valley area, from South Jersey to Delco, everywhere, everybody knew Connor Brogdon was about to lose this game. And you threw Connor Brogdon for the second time in 4 games of the regular season. Connor Brogdon's no longer on the Phillies. How does that look, dude? Nick Nelson just got called up. I would have had rather seen Nick Nelson enter that ballgame. Ricardo Pinto, if he was up that night, I would have rather seen Ricardo Pinto throw that game. Everybody knew Connor Brogdon was a train wreck. And for some reason, our skipper didn't. And I know it's early on in the season, but you can't just be almost throwing games away like this.
And I think the biggest problem is that these are the same things we saw previously, right?
Yeah, yes.
You could have probably given Stott and Marsh more at-bats and more starts last season, right?
Go to the postseason.
But you're going down the same route this season again, and that's why
go to the NLCS against the Cardinals. Go to the NLCS against the Cardinals. Not starting Marsh versus lefties. Pulling Ranger after 3 or 4 innings. Throwing Kimbrel out there to blow games when everybody knows he shouldn't be on the mound right now.
Hooked at this point, right?
Those are the issues. I need to see them cleaned up to have full faith in Rob Thompson over a 162-game season.
Yeah.
And he's showing them again. We talked about, can the Phillies win 95 games? Can the Phillies compete with Atlanta for the division? It's very early. I'm not saying they can't. But guess what? He might be more of a reason they don't than we originally thought.
Yeah. I do agree, man. And just to come out and kind of, get dominated in a sense that way by the Braves to start the season. Like you said, it's not the end all be all of this season, but it is just interesting to start the season that way. But I think the biggest thing with this team is Rob Thompson and kind of like the polarizing effect of him, right? Like, obviously they've had success in the postseason. They've kind of overachieved in certain instances, right? When you look at what they did in regular season compared to the postseason. But then, as seasons go on, and this is going to be a very telling season as well, you start to ask the questions, is this team just so talented that they're winning despite him? And it's way too early to go that far this early, right? But it is something that's going to come up over this season if the inconsistencies in the lineup, the pitching staff, and overall the team winning games and competing for the division. You have to ask yourself, what is separating the Phillies from the Braves right now with competing for the division, like getting 100 wins? Why? Why is it such a hard task? Why is that so unimaginable for the Phillies? Like, why are the Phillies down at 89.5 on the over/under for their season total in wins
with this roster and
this lineup? Like, the money that you do have in your pitching staff, right? Like, okay, the Braves have Strider, I get it. You have Wheels. We have Nola. They have Fried. We just got Fried off the mound in 2 innings or whatever, right? Like,
he threw 2 outs.
What is the difference between the rosters? I get it. Like, the top of the Braves throughout the bottom of their lineup. I do get it. But, they're 20 wins better than the Phillies? 15 wins better than the Phillies? It's interesting, but it's something we're going to have to think about over the season. But maybe if it's still early, and it was the Braves the first series. That is the one, saving grace that you get, right? To start the season, but it's just interesting that it's the same things we complained about last season.
And
maybe different players in the pitching
I'll,
staff, but it's the same complaints.
Correct. And the last thing I'll argue, there's one more thing with Rob Thomson is if the argument, is, well, he doesn't value the regular season as much as we might. And, he's keeping guys fresh and keeping guys healthy. And you see his track record in the postseason.
Yeah.
That's fair. And that's what matters more. The problem, Scotty, is these issues we're talking about 5 games in are the same things he does in a postseason series.
Yeah.
In the NLCS, in the World Series 2 years ago. And my question is, will that continue and prohibit the Phillies from winning a ring? 2 years ago against the Astros, Edmundo Sosa starting for Bryce and Stott. That's a mistake. So he needs to figure this shit out, man. Like, I'm sorry. Brandon Marsh is an everyday baseball player. Guess what?
He's your
Since
hottest
opening day
batter
and the limited action he's got, he's been your best, most consistent goddamn hitter.
Yeah, literally.
He's on base every night that he plays.
Yeah.
Bryson Stott puts together the best at-bats. Clutch with runners in scoring position. Good on the base paths. Great in the field. Needs to play every day. Man, I know it's easy to Monday morning quarterback. His when to go get a guy, when to go pull a starter, what buttons to press in the bullpen. Listen, if he would have thrown out, Soto in the 10th against the Reds and Soto blew it, I'm not going to sit here and go, well, he should have been okay with using Sir Anthony. Sir Anthony's got to throw there. That's not what I'm talking about. Everybody knew Connor Brogdon shouldn't have made an appearance in this game, Scott. Everybody knew Connor Brogdon shouldn't be on the roster. That's not Monday morning quarterback. That's being an asshole. That's knowing this isn't going to work. And
so would you blame him the most for the slow start? They're 2-3. Once again, not the end of the world, but is he the most to blame?
That's an interesting question, man. I don't know. I can't say he's the most to blame. I mean, I think, bullpen game 1. Okay, even if he throws Wheeler for 2 more outs into the 7th and then goes and gets him, the bullpen was still historically awful on opening day. They blow that game wide open. They lose that game. And the bottom line is Brandon Marsh hit a 2-run home run. That's the only offense the Phillies got up until the 9th inning when Castellanos hit a meaningless RBI single. So 2 runs plus a bad bullpen. Didn't matter who he threw out there. Strom was bad. Alvarado got hit around. Nobody worked opening day. Not his fault. Day 2, Aaron Nola. Can't really fault him for what Aaron Nola went out there and did, right? Like I said, even though he threw Connor Brogdon in extra innings, the Phillies lineup was the issue in game 1 against the Reds.
Yeah.
You scored 2 runs in the first inning. You did nothing else the rest of the way until the bottom of the 10th, where it was too late.
But it is hard to.
He's not the biggest reason that they're 2-3. But my point is, he needs to figure some of these things out for them to be that consistent regular season team we're looking for. Because I promise you, if we see more games with Edmundo Sosa, Christian Pache, and Johan Rojas all starting for this Phillies team, they're going to lose more games than we were hoping or expected to. Now, the funny thing is that's the game they win. On Easter, that's the game they win against Atlanta with that lineup at the bottom. Of course they did. But you're not going to get away with that consistently throughout the year. So he needs to figure it out. And if you are going to give guys days off, if you are going to bench Marsh versus a lefty, you need to spread it out. So even though you won that game on Sunday against the Braves, Scotty, there should never be a world with this Phillies lineup where 6 through 9 is Whit Merrifield, Edmundo Sosa, Christian Pache, Johan Rojas. There's no fucking world where that lineup should exist for this team outside of major injuries.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Rob, I love you as a person. I think you're a good man. I think you're a really good manager. You need to figure it out. You put your ego aside, whatever it is, your old school baseball mentality. You need to stop the nonsense, man.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Plenty of time to do so. So let's turn it around now. Let's turn it around today. Hopefully, I don't know if it's raining where you are, but it's raining pretty heavy here right now.
It's dark out here, but they did move the game from 1 to 4. So I think they're expecting that rain to kind of be out of here by then. So hopefully they get this game in. If you do, Zach Wheeler on the mound versus Frankie Montas. This needs and should be a win for your Phillies today. They do that. You're 3-3 on the season. You're 500. You won a series. You've won 3 out of your last 4 games. Now we get the ball rolling. Maybe the first 2 Braves games, Scotty, were just, a rough start for the pitching staff. That's it, right, mate? And then maybe the Phillies aren't getting off to a slow start. But we'll see where they continue to go, man. I think we will save the Hassan Reddick talk for our next show here, if you're cool with that. Because
that's fine with me.
This connection, I'm still trying to piece together your sentences, and the conversation is just not going so smoothly for me.
No, that's fine with me, man. We can talk about that on Friday. Which just wanted to shout out Barbara Carroll here. Appreciate you commenting today. This is the first time we've seen you in the comments. If you watched before, thank you for that.
If you're new, subscribe. Subscribe.
Hit the subscribe button. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. Definitely trying to get that more consistent and be here. But we're always going to bring the content. We'll be here for the biggest moments in Philly sports. So definitely subscribe to follow along. But Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays in the morning, roughly 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see you here in the next show, hopefully on Friday.
I agree. Guys, with that said, that is going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Joel Embiid back on the hardwood. Bryce Harper back in MVP form. Let's see if the Phillies can keep this starting winning streak here, and the Sixers can get out of the 8th seed. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your day.
Peace, everybody.